Three things that incels should know. Three major factors that affect your life as a young man and that increase your likelihood of being an incel, or, in other words, an involuntary celibate. I was reading this study that came out the other day, uh, a study of Twitter posts that find increase in cell activity in U.S. cities where men face higher competition for female partners. There are three major factors that are mentioned in the study: sex ratios, meaning the ratios of men and women, how many women there are, for every 100 men, how many women are there? Is it 105 or is it 95? Obviously, that makes a big difference. The second reason was income inequality. What's the level of inequality that exists between the top 10%, top 20% versus everybody else, versus the bottom 80%? And last but not least, gender equity, meaning what is the pay gap between men and women. Those are the three things that affect men for the most part in their ability to get a girlfriend. Okay, if you happen to be in a city where uh, the ratio of men and women was all messed up, let's say you have like 60% men and 40% women, a lot more men than women, then your ability to get a girl is gonna be messed up. It's gonna be way harder for you because there's just way too many dudes. There's just way too much competition. And believe it or not, there are many cities in the U.S. where that's the case. I believe that San Jose is like the prime example of that situation. But if the ratios are not like way more women than men, then it's gonna make it harder. You always want to be in an environment where there's more women. At least I would say 55-45, or maybe 52-48. You always want to be in a town like that. The second factor was income inequality. Okay? If you happen to be in a city where there's a lot of income inequality, where the top 10% of guys, the top 10% of dudes make a whole lot of money compared to the dudes at the bottom, then you can imagine that there's going to be a lot of hypergamy going on. 80-20 rule, basically. So the top dudes who make all the money, they're going to get all the women, which is going to make it harder for you to get a girlfriend, to get a girl, and therefore you're going to be an incel. In the cities where there's less inequality, right, it's that situation is not as bad. It's not as extreme. But in those towns, any major city really, where you have dudes that make money from their social media presence. You have Wall Street guys in New York, Hollywood actors. Any city where it's a major city where you have dudes that you have industries that generate a lot of income, and you have guys who work in those industries. There's going to be a lot of income inequality, which means there's going to be a higher rate of incels, okay, for the most part. And last but not least, the study talked about gender equity, meaning what is the pay gap, what is the wage gap between men and women. In those towns where the wage gap was bigger, meaning where men made a lot more money than women, the level of incel activity was a lot lower. Obviously, the more money you make than a woman, the easier it is for you as a man to get women and to go on dates and things like that. But if they make more money than you, then then you out of luck. So in those cities where there's a lot of women that make good money, they have their corporate job, they work in HR, they work in those different positions, and they make money on social media. Well, you're gonna observe an increased level of incel activity. So again, how do you position yourself with that information? Well, what you do is, if you happen to be in a town where there's a lot of incels and there's a lot of competition, you might want to relocate. You might want to relocate into an area where those factors play in your favor. Okay? If there's too many dudes in your town, there's too much competition, you may want to relocate in a town where there's a lot more women. I mean, a lot more women. If there's too much income inequality, you may want to go to a place where you can actually compete and you can be one of the guys who make the most money. You could be one of the top 20% of guys. And if you're in a city where women make as much money or more money than men, that may be something you may want to look into, especially if they make more money than you. You may want to go someplace where you happen to be one of the top 10, top 20% of earners. And that's always going to be like the easiest solution. Ultimately, and obviously, the study did not talk about anything that has to do with sexual market value, looks, or anything like that. It strictly talked about those three other things that have nothing to do with sexual market value. We all know that, your SMV plays a role as far as that's concerned. You could be broke, but if you chat, you're going to get laid regardless. But for most guys, those three factors are going to be very important. I'm going to put a link to the study, and you guys can check it out for yourself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.